How would you feel if you discovered later in life that you were already financially free today, now, or at least you had the resources to become so, but nobody told you and you didn't work it out? You spend your entire life working away too hard for someone you probably don't want to work for, and you didn't need to. What a waste of a life. What I would like to talk to you about on this week's edition of Money Matters is the 5 areas that people have often got a treasure trove, a gold mine. All they need is the spade to dig it up with. In the context of becoming wealthy through property, because I appreciate there's other ways you could do it, but my focus is wealth through property. And I'll give you the 2 things that stop most people most often. Number 1, which I'm not going to talk about so much, I've got plenty of other videos covering this, is fear. What if it all goes wrong? Or what if it goes right? Well, what are my friends going to think about me? My mum says I'm going to go bankrupt. No such thing as a free lunch. Sounds too good to be true. You can make your own list that's probably huge of all the reasons that people are fearful about investing in property. It's all to do with what I would call mindset, and generally, in terms of fear, there's only 2 kinds. We're afraid that we will get something that we don't want, or conversely, we're afraid that we won't get something that we do want. If you want to be wealthy through property, it's really that second one that should be driving you. Imagine your life if you were wealthy, the things that you would be doing or able to do. But imagine that you could have been financially free. Imagine you could have had assets, property, providing you with income in exchange for none of your time, that allows you then to spend 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, doing whatever you want. So thing number 1, which is the biggest store of wealth, full stop, in the United Kingdom, that you've probably got a load of, that you don't even realise, is equity in your property. Almost exactly 2/3 of people either have bought or are buying their property. The other 30%, the other 1/3 rent. Of the 2/3 that are buying or have bought, 37% don't have a mortgage. They've paid it off. And I don't know when you bought your property, but if you bought it in the year 2000, for instance, 20 odd years ago, 23 years ago, the average house price in the UK was 100,000. It's now 300,000. It's tripled. You either own your home outright or you've got a lot of equity in it, probably, unless you only bought it very, very recently in the last 6 months to 2 years, something like that. Almost everybody in the UK wants to be debt-free, they don't want a mortgage, and they want to pay everything off. The property that you live in isn't an asset. It doesn't provide you with money on a monthly basis. You can't go on a round-the-world cruise because you're not getting any rent. Learning how to use that even more efficiently and maybe save some tax and do some other things is the single most important financial education and financial task and financial challenge that I believe you should set yourself, because it is the key that unlocks the door to a wealthy life. There's 10 million people in the UK that change their cars every 3 or 4 years. The average car in the UK is round about £25,000. On average, after they've owned it for 3 or 4 years, they sell it for between £10,000 and £12,000. Intrinsically, most people want to be debt-free. Therefore, if they've got the cash, they'll just buy the car for cash because they don't want a car loan. And they've got all this money tied up. Now, if I talk to you about what I did and what my wife Anniko did about 15 years ago now, as soon as we made this breakthrough and as soon as we gained this understanding, we sold the 2 cars, and instead of the 2 cars, we suddenly had £60,000. We bought 2 flats. Those 2 properties, we ran as serviced accommodation, so Airbnb, Booking.com, that kind of stuff, and each one of those properties made us £1,000 a month each. So we changed our 2 cars into extra money of £2,000 a month. You'll learn about this on Wealth Through Property as well. We ran our serviced accommodation through something called an LLP, and if you put a car through a limited company, oof, ouch, 40% benefit in kind, loads of tax. If you do the same thing through an LLP, 0. And you can claim your insurance, and you can claim your servicing, and essentially you move all of the costs of motoring pre-tax instead of post-tax. Wealthy people buy assets, things that go up in value and things that give them money on a monthly basis. They lease liabilities. They don't buy them, they lease them. So we went along to leasing.com and we leased ourselves a couple of cars. Total cost for the 2 Mercedes was £800 a month. Yes, you heard me right. So we've sold our cars that were depreciating, bought 2 extra properties that gave us £2,000 a month, and then we only spent £800 a month on 2 brand new Mercedes that we then changed every 3 years. If either of these first 2, equity locked up in your house, or cash locked up in your cars, this lazy money that we're all sat on, is interesting to you, get yourself along to wealth through property. Number 3 is your pension. Many years ago now, 20 plus years ago, I cashed in my company pensions, something called a transfer value, and I put it into a private pension. You can't cash it in and spend it. You can cash it in and move it. What I gave up, brief version, was £8,000 a year when I was 60, and I did that at the age of 40. So it would have gone up a bit with inflation. And instead of that, I got £396,000 that I have used in commercial property, in gold, in various other investments that I'm allowed to through my SAS. I'm not going to tell you anything about it now because it'd be ridiculous to try and talk to you about the benefits and the pitfalls and should you, shouldn't you, in 2 minutes. That would just be mad. But come along and spend 2 days at wealth through property. If you want to find out, well, am I already sitting on, like Paul was, £200,000, £300,000, £400,000 of money that I can start using to invest in other things that I control? I love this expression. The more you learn, the more you learn. I absolutely love that. I really do, because it's true. So without focusing in what you might want to learn in particular, let's focus instead on how you would learn. Almost all of us have been from school from, say, age of 4 through to about probably 18. So we've been at school for 14 years, and most of us have learned to read. What's your reading speed? Do you know? Probably, unless you've done something different, it's probably around 120 to 150 words a minute. We're taught to read out loud. Now you're told to read in silence, but we still sound out the words as if someone's listening to us. Go and do a speed reading course. One of the biggest secrets to unlocking wealth, and this applies to every one of you, is to learn more. My reading speed is 850 words a minute. It means I can read a normal 200-page book in 40 to 45 minutes. It's an app, and it's called Blinkist. It's a typically 5, maybe 10-minute précis, shortened version of the best bits, as someone said to me, of a book. So before you go to the effort of reading a book, how about you go listen to a précis on Blinkist? But I want to go back to where I started now. I've given you 5 different examples, and I could give you 50, of hidden treasure, treasure troves, pirate's treasure, however you want to think of it. The spade with which you dig it all up and become wealthy is knowledge and action. But number 3, what's the most important? You need a map to know where the treasure's buried. Otherwise, you're going to dig a lot of holes and waste a lot of time. You want to know where to dig? Come and join me for 2 days on wealth through property. Let me share with you what's possible. Let me share with you how you can become wealthy through property by having the right spade in the right piece of ground at the right time, and how you can then use that newfound wealth that you've probably already got to have the best life you could possibly have. So that sounds good to you? Click the link, come on, spend 2 days with us at Wealth Through Property. If you enjoyed this last 10, 20 minutes, whatever it was, come and spend 2 days. Who knows? It might be the 10 minutes that just change your life. You've been wonderful. I've been Paul. See you next time.